Hello folks and welcome to today's Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined by Shane Brophy, as ever, Head of Sport, and Nina Guardian, and Dennis Kelly, the Tipperary camogie manager, and obviously has been doing the rounds the whole time with Tipperary hurling, so he's well tuned in there. Shane, how are things with you?
Good now, just looking out at the wind and rain now, and looking forward to next weekend now. Like, just, I know quarter-final weekend gets bigged up into. I love semi-final weekend. Like, you have what, senior, intermediate, premier, intermediate, junior, relegation, semi-finals. Like, it's so many games this weekend. My problem is how to get reporters to every one of them. Like, so it's a good problem to have.
Dennis, are you buzzing for the weekend?
Yeah, really looking forward to it now. You know, there's some mouth-watering clashes ahead, as we said there, and you know, it's I suppose it's pity they're all coming together, but you're kind of getting near the business end of it now. So these last couple of weekends now are really, you know, it's going to be great, and we have the camogie semi-finals coming up as well. So that, you know, they're really catching light fire as well. So it's all go this weekend.
Yeah, certainly we have a load to touch on in this show as well. So we're going to start off with the hurling. We're going to have Anthony Shelley on talking about football. Dennis is going to talk us through a bit of the camogie as well, and any other business. Get your comments in and let us know. But Shane, the only place to start as far as I'm concerned is Loughmore Castellini against Thurles Sarsfields. They met in the final a couple of years ago when Loughmore went on and did the double. Now we'll touch on Loughmore getting knocked out of football by Moyle Rovers in a while, but now they've got their focus solely on the hurling. What are you expecting to see this weekend against Sarsfields?
Yeah, I suppose first of all, as what Dennis mentioned, like, I suppose in some ways it's great that we're using the lights in Semple Stadium Saturday night. It just stretches the day out a bit. I know maybe county semi-finals under lights at senior level, maybe they've never been done before, I think, as such, but like it just stretches out the day, and I suppose there'll be a lot of eyes maybe watching from home, or people who will make their way down, hopefully if the weather is good on Saturday night. So look, it's I think it's going to be a fascinating game. Like, it's a local derby. It's, I suppose, the team you trust the most in Loughmore against the team that's really coming with momentum now in Sarsfields, and you're wondering how will Loughmore stop this Thurles sort of train that's sort of built up ahead of steam over the last 3 games, or will Loughmore just find a way to turn the screw again? Like, I think it's just finely balanced. Look, I know Moyle Rovers Loughmore were disappointed to losing the football last weekend, but look, they'll dust themselves down very quickly. I think Noel McGrath didn't feature last weekend, so I'm sure he'll be ready to go. Like, and just so many facets of this game really that are key. And I suppose the interesting one for me is like how, if Loughmore are going to win this game, their defence are going to have to play outstandingly well, like, because there's no doubt any team missing Joy Hennessy and John Maher are not the same without him. I know Brian McGrath has sat in at centre back, but he's a different kind of a centre back from John Maher. Like, John Maher, more physical, more commanding. Brian, more of a reader of the game. And then you're up against all that. It's a very interchangeable Thurles forwards, like the Dara Stakelyns and the Shawnee Butlers having a great campaign. Aidan McCormick, Billy McCarthy in his new role at full forward, very powerful guy. Like, so, and then Paddy Creedon can't even get a start at the moment. So, like, it'd be so many fascinating aspects to this game.
Dennis, what I'd love to ask you is about, can Loughmore not make a hero out of Rona Maher? Now, I'm sure Burris Lee, Nina Erogue and Drummond Inch, none of them wanted to do that, but that's what ended up happening, and maybe because of the work rate of the Thurles forwards. But surely that's going to be one of the main focuses for Loughmore and the management team.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge because, you know, he seems to slip into that sweeping role. Even teams try to negate him, but he seems to slip into it. You know, Loughmore have played most of the championship there with Brian McGrath sitting around the D there. He's sitting very deep because I'd say they're anxious enough about their backline when they're down to 2 buys. So again, you know, they're going to have to be clever with the use of the ball, but it is very hard to negate him. You'd wonder, try mark him maybe and leave one of the lesser backs free. But again, Ronan is lethal at getting free. So he's had a serious campaign. So that's the biggest challenge, I suppose. You see Nina there got a good goal against them when they carried through the lines, and maybe just, you know, if you don't hit it into that zone, it's hard for him to get on ball maybe. So a mix of getting it in, or you know, to a wide of him and carrying maybe might be an option, but it's a huge challenge.
And like Loughmore, very measured on how to use the ball. So if there's one club that will be I wouldn't say focused, but they'll be very aware of not putting too much of the ball down the middle and running. It's Loughmore.
Yeah, and they're used to playing with the sweeper and one man less up front, and they are good at getting maybe, you know, if there's two backs, getting one man in under it and kind of, you know, giving him a chance of winning and getting onto the breaks then. So they're good at that. But you know, Ronan is a whole different level to what they've come up against earlier in the championship.
Yeah, well, like you've talked about this plenty of times, Shane, the composure that Loughmore have, the fact that they play football and staying composed on the ball is a big thing there. Like, if you're going to be coming up against the heavy tackle rate that Thurles have, and you want to make sure that Ronan isn't going to dominate the game, like, they're going to have to be okay with like shipping tackles or breaking through the tackle, coming out and making sure they pin it to the corners. I thought Liam McGrath was very good showing. I know he only got a point the last day. But he's very good at showing for the ball, and they have other forwards who are quite dynamic there that can certainly trouble Thurles.
Yeah, there's no doubt. They're very adept at playing the wings, like, and working the ball through the lines, and say and that's where their ability in football comes to the fore. Like, they won't be raining long ball in on top of John McGrath. Like, they'll it'd be interesting to see what they'll do with Ronan. Like, I'm sure Thurles will try and maybe set up with Ronan as the free man, but whether it's maybe Noel slips in at 11 or maybe a Kieran McGrath could get a start, and he's told at 40-45 minutes, just your job is to make sure that Ronan is not isolated or not left available. But like, you probably would have said in the last few years, I mean, maybe the weakness in the Thurles side was their lack of physicality, but geez, that's just completely changed this year with Porrick. They're really playing in his image now, from 2 to 15. If you're not putting in the work and you're not putting in the hits, you won't be playing. Like, he's really turned them into a really rounded hurling team.
And Dennis, just want to ask you about like trying to make a quick impact. Like, Paddy Maher there has turned this into a physical team straight away, as Shane has pointed out. I was even tweeting the other day about Ange Postecoglou. After a couple of years of watching dreadful stuff with Spurs, he has been playing these lovely patterns straight away. And I just wanted, you know, with your own team with Tipperary Camogie this year, there was a nice shove on from previous seasons as well. So, like, can you talk to us about trying to make that quick impact with a team and what you can do in a short space of time?
Yeah, I suppose you get the basics right is the first of all. You know, I think Thurles had that gym work done. You know, I was hearing that they were concentrating seriously on the gym work even before Paddy came in. But that was a good start, head start for him. So they had that work done, and I suppose he built on that. But, you know, getting the basics right, think of all the teams I've seen, they're the best organised. Everyone knows their job, and the job for a lot of the backs is to make sure Ronan Maher is free, and the forwards are working really, really hard. And, you know, there's no egos up there, like you see lads that have fallen out of favour there, and they just have to wait their turn then to get back in. And I think the big advantage for them is they have a huge panel there. Like, there's some lads flying there. Mikey Cahill is flying for the second team. Like, you know, if he was in any other club, he'd probably be starting. And there's others as well. So I think they have that strength in depth. But you know, they're getting the basics right, and they really know, everyone knows their job. I think that's the big thing, and you know, that's a good start. And I think the up front, their support play is unreal there. Just looking down at it from the press box at times, you know, you don't see it maybe at ground level, but the runs they're making are huge. And the likes of Dara Stakelin was a bit quieter the last day, but then other lads come into play. Aidan McCormack and others, you know, there seems to be someone stepping up every day, and that's a sign of a possibility of a championship winning team when someone different is you know, taking on the scoring challenge on different days.
Yeah, so like, this is a big game on TV and all, Shane. Like, there are got a lot of guys who've played plenty of county on both teams who are used to this, but like, the big focus, it could spook the odd person here. So maybe it is back to that composure thing. And then, which forward line out of the two do you think has more scores in it?
I actually think both sets of forwards are pretty even. Like, you go Liam McGrath, John McGrath, like Philip O'Connell got 1-2 the last day. Noel is very good. Ed Connolly, Kieran Connery all able to chip in scores. Kieran McCormack can blow hot and cold, like, so, but he could have a huge game next weekend, like, so. But I just was, I think that the worry for, that's what the way I'm looking at it is, I think Thurles' defence is stronger than Loughmore's at the moment. Like, if Loughmore play like they did in the first half against Holy Cross and against Rossgrave, where they brought no intensity and conceded goals and 2 easy points, they'll be blown away. But I don't think that'll happen. I think they'll be revved up for this from the word go. Like I don't see them not getting to the pitch of this game right from the start. And look, I think if there's 15 minutes to go, I give Loughmore every chance, even though Thurles' bench is the stronger. But like sometimes, like I just think that know-how from Loughmore and that composure is so invaluable going into the last few minutes of games. Like, and while I'm calling it for Sarsfields now, I think if this is tight with 10 minutes to go, I wouldn't be surprised if Loughmore just have that edge there if it comes to getting over the line.
Yeah, I'd be edging towards Sarsfields myself. Like, they just seem to, like, that work rate as much as anything else is unreal. But like, Darius Dakeham's form has been very good. I wouldn't be shocked to see Paddy Creedon coming back in again, and he'll surely have a serious hunger on him. And obviously the spine then with Dennis Maher, Ronan. And I'm interested to see who Dennis Maher picks up. Obviously physical guy, good in the air, all that kind of stuff. Maybe even team on John McGrath. You wouldn't know for sure. But Dennis, what way do you see this game going?
Yeah, again, you'd be leaning towards Sayers, but like you'd never write off Loughmore. And I suppose the thing about it is Noel's fitness is going to be key to the whole thing. He didn't play last weekend. He came off early, which is the first time I've ever seen him taken off, I'd say, for Loughmore. Against Rossgrave, when it was in the melting pot, you just had to take him off. So, his fitness is going to be key because he dictates a lot. It'd be interesting to see what if he's playing, and he expect him to be playing, what Sayers will do with him. But you'd have to lean towards Sayers. But again, you never write off Loughmore because this is the kind of a match now they've been fooling along there, getting through games. But now it's getting serious, and they always turn up for the big days.
No pressure on the two teams. Like we need them two to put on a classic on RT2 on Saturday night. We don't. Sorry, Shane, but we don't need a repeat of the Sarsborough-Salee match that nearly put people to sleep on TG Carr a few weeks ago. So
yeah, it wasn't great. And you know what? Like, if you look at that Clare match that was on the other day, against Clonlara, we could do with the weather being somewhat okay, but we're not guaranteed that at the moment. No. Like, Kiladangan are looking to make a 5th county final since 2016, Dennis, and we know that they've lost 3 of the 4 they've been in, and the one time they won it, they didn't get an opportunity to play in Munster, which was an awful shame. But Toome Vara, they're looking to bridge a gap all the way back to 2006. So I'd say, like, Toome going to be ravenous to get through this one.
They will, yeah. But look, I suppose Kiladangan will have to be hot favourites. Like, as you said, they've been knocking around there for the last number of years, and they've only won county final once, so they'll be looking to add to that because they probably deserve more than that. And they've had a bit of a hoodoo sign on Toome for the last number of years. Toome can't really get a win against them. But I suppose Toome have got a good shot in the arm this year, especially Darren McCarthy has really given him life. And Ken has again, they're well set up, of the teams that we've seen. Like Toome and Sayers were the two that impressed me most. I've probably seen more games maybe of the two teams, but they seem to be well organised as well. And their work rate up front is huge as well. But it's a massive challenge now for Toome. And I suppose most people will be leaning towards Kiladangan for this one.
And Shane, if you were to make the case for Toome Vara in this game, where would you start?
I suppose in some ways, like I would argue, maybe their impact off the bench is probably maybe slightly stronger than Kiladangan's. I would have thought, just with what we saw from Adam Hall and Kenny Ryan the last day. But then, by the sounds of it, Jake Ryan is probably not going to make the game on Sunday. The ankle injury was forced off against Clonotty. So, like, I don't know what Dennis thinks. Does that mean Joey Malachny has to start, which probably robs you of having that bit of experience to call on off the bench? Like, or do you go with one of the youngsters, maybe a Josh Powell from the start, and say, I trust you? Like, so that'd be an interesting one for me. Or maybe you put Darren Delaney back in the half-back line and maybe start one of the youngsters. Like, so that'd be I suppose that's the thing I suppose Ken Dundas will probably figure out this week.
Yeah, Dennis, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, Jake Ryan has been massive there for Toome, and he's real speed at the back, and he picks up usually one of the main men from the other side himself. And
he would have been nailed on probably for Sean Hayes, I would have thought.
You'd expect that, yeah, expect that. So look at it, he's going to be touch and go, as you said. So it could be a big one. If he doesn't play, then it's definitely Joey comes in. Joey might come in anyway. He got a good run out the last day. He hasn't a whole lot of training under the belt, but still has that experience, and lads follow his lead as well. So it'll be interesting to see what team they pick. But again, it's touch. If Jake Ryan doesn't make it, it's going to be tough going, and it's going to be a baptism of fire for the likes of Josh Powell or whoever comes in there to fill that cornerback spot.
Yeah, Dennis, is it a step up in class here now? Because, you know, they had group wins over Kiladangan, who aren't themselves this season. Moycarkey Burris, Ross Gray, both teams that, you know, are trying to really establish themselves as senior clubs and are doing so. And in the last day out against Clonolty, like, is Kiladangan a fair old step up?
It is, I suppose. You know, the other teams, to be fair to them, they're not all shooting the lights out. And, you know, Clonolty were hit and miss this year as well. And now they're gone into the relegation. And, you know, you wouldn't be between themselves and Brackens, like it's not a given that they're going to win that either. So, you suppose, you know, they have got through nicely and the draw has been nice to them. But at the same time, I like the look of them there. You know, the last day in that extra time, they looked like, you know, they were going to maybe, there was a lot of young lads there and they could have put their heads down after getting caught at the end, but they didn't. Kicked on and you know, the likes of Adam Hall, Kenny Ryan, as you say, Darren McCarthy still had a great game. There was some serious performances, so they really kicked on. So that was real hope for Toome, I'd say. And you know, again, they're going in here now. They've had a great year. They got to a semi-final. It's probably more than they were expecting, maybe starting off. So I don't think there's a fierce lot of pressure on them. I'd be saying they'll probably throw off the shackles and have a go and see how they get on, you know.
Yeah, I remember in 2018 when they got to the semi, they never really threw off the shackles that day against Clonolty Rossmore. But I having Ken Dunn as manager there, and the guy that's about 10 county medals he has won, and like tradition counts for a lot, I think, in these games. Like Ken will have those guys going out there believing that they're good enough to win the game. They're wearing that green and gold jersey, and look, it's like Kiladangan have had their number between minor under 31 senior over the last decade or so, but that's not to say this would be the day that had Toome begin to fight back and what a day it would be like. But like, you just really get Kiladangan. If I think I've been saying it all along, I think Kiladangan at their best are probably still the best team in the county when they're humming like they were the second half against Burrislee, like they were against Thurles Sarsfields in the group. If they're firing, they're hard to stop. Like Sean Hayes, I think he's had a very, very good campaign. Like, I think it's one that probably will get him a look in with Billy Seymour. Alan Flynn, interesting that he went back centre back the last day and they put Joe Gallagher out in the wing. Like, I just think they're more secure, I think, at 6 when he's there. Ty Gallagher probably that was the interest. I assuming that James Quigley comes back in at full back after coming on against Holy Cross. That what do you do with Willie Connors? Do you hold him or do you start him? Like, I think in a game like this, I think Willie's experience from the start would be massive. And if I'm not Kiladangan management, I'd be finding somewhere to start, and particularly maybe around the half over line midfield where his vision and everything. But it's that's what that ankle has been troubling him for a while, and whether he does have 60 minutes in him, if he doesn't, they'll surely be holding him anyway.
Yeah, and just so you know, the Nina Guardian is out now. There's a huge amount of stuff being covered in the paper there, so go and check that out. We might just jump over to the camogie semi-finals that are coming up this weekend while we have you, Dennis, because obviously you have to go to work at some stage. But we might start off with the game that's on Saturday, Drummond against Thurles Sarsfields at the camogie grounds, 3:30 p.m. as well. What are you expecting there?
We should look at again. Drummond are the county champions and they'll be the favourites there. I got a look at both of them there during the last weekend. Sars had a good win against Anacarty. Probably made hard work of it. They were that bit stronger. You know, Karen Kendi at the moment, she's on absolute fire. She's playing around the middle of the field there, so it's very hard to stop. She's scoring all around her and she's creating stuff. And you know, there's the girl, the Stakelums as well. Quiva Stakelum she's still under 16, but she's playing corner forward as well. She's hitting frees and stuff. So they have an extra element to them this year that they mightn't have had, and that accuracy is helping them out. But Drum look, you know, they've cruised through a lot of their games. They look very strong at the moment. You know, they're down Quiva Burke all right, but one the girl, the Keneals, has gone into the goals, and after that, like, they're very strong, and they're still having to use the likes of Michelle Short yet, or and they're only bringing in Joanne Ryan off the bench, and she's been playing for the last donkey's years. So I think they're very strong. It's hard to look past them, but yet, you know, it'll be a good challenge, I'd say, now from Sarsfields, you know, and if ever they're going to make the cut, you know, now could be the time.
Yeah, like there was only 4 points between them in the group match when they met a few weeks ago. So, like, in fairness, Sarsfields have made the jump up to senior grade pretty comfortably. Like they look like they're I suppose this year's championship, you would say maybe apart from Nina, the other 9 teams, there was very, very little between them.
Okay, yeah, definitely. There was
quarterfinals last weekend, but I suppose that's maybe when the cream rises to the top, and maybe the likes of Kickham's and Silvermines find the going a bit tough.
Yeah, no, most of the teams were even enough. Like even Duhara and Borrisley the other night was a great game. Both very tight again. Just we came down to a point or two. So again, most of the games have been decent. Just the top teams, you're probably expecting Clonoulty to come through on the other side. Borris have had a great year, getting to a semi-final after coming up from intermediate. And again, it'll be similar to Toome in the hurling. They won't have any real pressure on them and throw the shackles off like the last time they met Clonoulty earlier on in the year. They got a bit of a beating. So again, they'll be trying to fix a few things from that. And it'd be a big surprise if they did beat Clonoulty, but they've been going well and they've had a great first year back in senior.
Yeah, and like Dennis, that day that I saw Clonoulty play Borrisley down in the Bishop Quinlan Park, it was the cuteness in front of goals and the interplay in the forwards for Clonoulty that was really impressing me. But that day, Caught Devan didn't play on one side, Katie Fitzgerald and Nicole Walsh didn't play for Borrisley, so maybe it'd be a slightly different game here.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at Borris against Duhara the other night, they really tightened it up at the back. That day they were very open. They were some of the half back line out on the middle of the field and stuff. And it's a big change from playing intermediate camogie to playing senior. So I'd say the lads will have learned a lot from that. They'll definitely tighten it up at the back and they won't give that space. But Caught coming back like she's a serious detail. And but again on the other side, Nicole the other night against Duhara looked very sharp as well. She's come back and she's getting back to her form of a couple of years ago. So again, it's a big one. You'd expect probably Clonoulty to just about see it out. But again, Borris will have a good crack at them, I'd say.
Yeah, we've been waiting a while, Shane, for the relegation playoffs in Tipperary. Clonoulty Rossmore against Brackens this weekend, Kiladangan against Upperchurch. So they're fairly tasty fixtures. But like Clonoulty,
that's for sure. Like you're like I think these are as big as the semi-finals. Was like that. Even though there's no silverware on the line, I always remember 2007. I think the county final was it Thurles Arsefields. I think we're playing somebody that day, and I was covering before that Portruan and Aero again. Carty met in the relegation final in the rag around 12 o'clock, and it was brilliant. Just the rawness of it. And you said, geez, these two teams are playing for nothing compared to the two teams in the stadium are playing for a cup, but it nearly meant more to them to stay up. So I might be expecting a bit of rawness to come through this weekend. Like, Clonoulty Brackens are Saturday. I fancy Brackens on this one. I just think they're coming along nicely, hurling and football. They were coming together very, very well. Like that clipping they gave Drum in the group stage. Okay, it was a dead rubber, but that was as impressive as what Thurles did to Drum. Like so. What way are Clonoulty thinking? They got to a quarter final, but yet they could be relegated. So I think maybe Brackens have got used to the idea of being in relegation for probably about 6 weeks, whereas Clonoulty have had to maybe focus on it in the last 10 days. So I fancy Brackens to win. And the other one, Kiladangan and Upperchurch. Just on the fact that Upperchurch had to go to penalties in football last weekend, that Kiladangan might be a little fresh. They'll have had a good few weeks to focus on this game and got a few lads fit. Maybe they'll edge it, but they're two very, very interesting games.
Yeah, it's fairly finely poised. I mean, Clonoulty and Brackens, they've been playing game on game on game. Upperchurch, obviously, and even the penalties last week. Whereas Kiladangan, like, we don't know much about them at the moment, Dennis, because it's been a while since we've seen them.
Yeah, someone was saying to me during the week they can't remember Kiladangan winning a match, either league or championship this year. No, so that's a fair one. Like they'll probably have got their panel together now. It depends on how they trained and are they able to get that interest levels. But it's easy focus to mind when you have a relegation match ahead of you. So Upperchurch will give their all, and they're never easily beaten. But again, yeah, that football last weekend might take a bit out of them, and it's there for Kiladangan. Like they really one big performance and they're safe, and it would be unheard of, I'd say, to hear that the county champions of the previous year were relegated. I haven't heard of it too often anyway. So they won't want that distinction. So I'd be slightly leaning to Kiladangan in that one. In the other one, I think Shane is right. There's very little between those two teams. Clonty probably have a bit of experience of being there a bit longer, but Paddy Cadell back for brackets, he seems to have settled the thing, and that performance against Drum was a big one. But that's a good while ago now, so you don't know what way. But that's a very close one there as well. So both ones will be huge, and I'd say there'll be big crowds at them from the four clubs.
Wouldn't it be remarkable if we got a relegation final between Kiladangan and Clonalty after what went on last year? I think in some ways I hope it doesn't happen, and it's not a slight on Upper Church or Brackens. I'd hate to be trying to motivate both clubs for a game like that. If you're one of these going to lose, like it could happen.
Yeah, like Kiladangan will look at Glen Rovers, who are obviously multiple champions, 97 years at the top level, gone down. Clare Castle, 12 times Clare champions, gone down. Owlert there a few years ago. These things happen as well.
Yeah.
We might talk a little bit about the Premier Intermediate then as well. The relegation semi-finals are on. Portrue against Newport and Kiladangan against Upper Church.
Oh no, they're finals.
Sorry, I had the whole thing wrong. You might give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I suppose Newport and Port, like it's a huge game. Like one North team is going to go down. Port have been, I suppose, senior or stroke Premier Intermediate for over 30 years. Like, so it'll be a big drop for them. Newport probably only came up in the last 6 or 7 years. I'm going to go with Portrue. I know Port are missing a couple of players, but Newport they've been struggling to score over the last few games. Their morale seems a little low. Maybe they'll come out fighting, but I just think that a bit of Portrue spirit, like you saw in 2007 in that relegation match against Anacarty when they won, and just maybe when their backs are to the wall, they might just come out firing. So like this, I suppose that North Derby element will probably add a bit of extra spice to it. I'd say it'll be a tough one to ref because there'll be so much on the line, but like maybe Portrue to shade it, but it's a game neither team will want it to have been in.
Your thoughts, Dennis?
Yeah, again, Port, they have that fighting spirit, as Shane said. They've, over the years, they've survived, scares like this already. Newport, I've seen them against Burgess. I was very disappointed with them. They just, they didn't seem to be well organised, or didn't seem to have a major plan. And they have things didn't get any better for them after that. So again, I'd be leaning slightly towards Port, but again, it could go either way. And it's a big one for both clubs. They won't want to drop back tier, but that's the life, and that's the way it goes when you don't get the results.
We might, Dennis, just spare Shane a little bit of focus on Laura by just asking you about Laura against Cashel King Cormac this well. Like, we know Laura have been going well, pretty much won every game. Shane, am I right in saying in December? Yeah, won every game. So they're flying it. Cashel obviously has some class, especially up in the forward line. Like Ger Brown comes to mind. Devin Ryan, Ross Bonner, and obviously have Owen Connolly in the back. Like, so they've plenty of quality there. What way do you see this going?
Yeah, it's a real tough one now. I just got some of the Laura game on Clubber last weekend, and that was a tough one. It was a real struggle there. Again, Clontykenny are no easy team to beat. So this one is going to be really interesting. Cashel, I'm hearing they kind of have nailed their discipline a little bit over the last while. I suppose it was telling that, Ollie Moran is in there with him and Andy Maloney, and, Ger Brown did his little bit of a stint on the sideline there in the Ballinav game. He was kind of half carrying an injury, but they took him off, and it worked out well for them, I'd say. And discipline, I'm hearing since, has been excellent across the board. So they had issues with discipline. So if they get that right, they'll be hard beaten. But at the same time, Laura have a serious outfit there. But I suppose maybe off the bench, I don't know, Shane will know more about him than me, but maybe off the bench they mightn't have as good a kick off the bench. But look, again, it's going to go down to the wire. I no offence to Shane, but I'd maybe slightly leaning towards Cashel maybe, but again by a couple of points. But I wouldn't be one bit surprised, any team that Ken Hogan is over, like they're well brought out, and they'll be hard beaten.
And they have that disciplinarian chain there as well.
I know, like it's no doubt it has the makings of a very, very tight game. Like it's I suppose, look, not ideal that we've only 7 days to recover after the Kiladangan match, but that was put back a week. But look, we'd like to think we can hurl better. Like we were disappointed with some elements of the game last week. But in fairness, once we went, I think we went behind on 56 or 57 minutes. We completely dominated the last 5 minutes. I think we had 5 shots, 3 points and 2 wides, and I don't think Clonakilty had even a shot at goal. Like, it was there's something in our lads when they go behind late on, they don't tend to panic, which is great. Like, and look, we need that on Saturday and hopefully beyond. And I suppose the second semi-final, Kiladangan and Sarsfields on Sunday. Like, that's Kiladangan probably on paper be famous, but like Sarsfields, I'm sure there's a great hum and training with their seniors, and it's either their intermediate footballers are going well. Like, it's like anything, it's like Brackens at the moment or Kilsheelan. Like, it's like winning momentum between codes is huge. Like, you just go from one match to the other, and like, it'd be like if Thurles win on Saturday night in the senior, like they're Premier Intermediate, think, God, we want to be part of the county final weekend too.
Dennis, I suppose we better let you go. You've work to get to, but thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Les.
And just before we bring Anthony Shelley in to talk football, just I noticed in Nina Guardian notes, and there's a huge amount of it covered in the paper this week, as we were saying, there's 14 different teams who reached the semi-final of the Seamus O'Reen, or the Premier Intermediate, from 2018 to 2023. And of the 14, 6 of them are in the Dan Breen, including Ross Gray, who were last year's winners. So it just
effectively means all the winners of the Seamus O'Reen in the last few years have stayed up, which is a fair go. And like, you usually think the team that goes up is probably maybe vulnerable to going down, but you think that it probably proves that maybe the bottom half of senior and the top half of Premier Intermediate, there's very, very little between any of those clubs.
Yeah, and I think the tight competition that you're getting in all of these championships is actually improving the quality across the board. I certainly hope so. Anthony Shelley joins us now to talk football. How are you, Anthony?
How are you, Shane?
Are you well? Well, look, let's dive straight into the football and the result of the week. Well, I mean, there was a lot of drama with penalties in another game, but Moyle Rovers beating Loughmore 110 to 12 points. That was probably the one that really caught my eye initially.
Yeah, it was a cracking game. First of all, Shane, delighted to be on. I thought you might have the Ballymun lads on today instead of me, but out of the weekend. But yeah, that was a cracking game. And you know what? We were here a few weeks ago saying my Rovers were in trouble and maybe in danger of relegation, and maybe that's the kick up the backside they needed. You know, they seem to have got their act together, and I thought on Saturday they were fully deserving of their win. It went to the 7th minute of injury time before they kicked the winner, but any time they attacked it, they look to be capable of getting a shot off. Their attack, they kind of kicked past the ball in, whereas Loughmore's attack was very slow and deliberate, and allowed Moyle Rovers to get men behind the ball. So yeah, great win for Moyle Rovers. And I suppose the highlight of the game was an absolutely outstanding goal from Liam Boland, who picked it up probably just inside his own half and ran the full half the length of the pitch. I would have thought Loughmore were doing nothing wrong. People would say they should have got a hand on him, but they were obviously covering his left leg, because that's where he goes all the time, you know. But he stepped onto the right and hit it early, probably caught Shane Hennessy in the Loughmore goal by surprise by hitting it so early with his right foot, and a cracker of a goal worthy of winning any match.
Yeah, Shane, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, like, in some ways, like, it was probably the best, the ideal draw for Moyle Rovers. But like, they've been very, very close to Loughmore over the last few years. So even though maybe their form hadn't been great coming in, they knew they would have been able to match up pretty well with Loughmore. And look, they as Anthony said, that they fully deserved the win. Like, and I know there was some maybe controversy in injury time that maybe Loughmore were given an advantage and the referee never called it black, and maybe that free could have maybe put Loughmore ahead, and Moyle Rovers went down the field and got the winner. But look, there's no doubt it was a great win for Moyle Rovers, just a tonic for them. Like, things haven't been going well, I suppose, in football as they would have hoped the last few years, particularly since they won the county in 2018. So look, from where they were a couple of weeks ago, maybe potentially facing relegation, out in a semi-final, albeit it looks like an unenviable task against a ravenous commercial side. But look, it's a local derby. It's like they'll get they maybe commercials mightn't be as free flowing. They won't maybe allow themselves to be as free flowing against Moyle Rovers as they might do against other teams. So it might be more of a cautious semi-final. But Moyle Rovers are there, and I think they'll look forward to taking on commercials. Like looking at the semi-final last year, like they were well beaten. So at least I think at minimum they'll be hoping to bridge some of that gap from last year's semi-final.
Yeah, we might talk now about Clonmel and the scoreline they put up on Ballina, Anthony. Comprehensive is the word. Now, I know that Ballina were missing lads and they had lads who had to come off injured during the game, but Clonmel very much said to the intermediate champions, back in your box in this game.
And it seemed, didn't it? It seemed like they came with that attitude. They probably felt that people were getting a little bit horny about Ballina. And we're the bosses here, and they came like they were relentless from the start. They're so well organised, defensively well set up. To concede 7 points against a team that had been free scoring all through the championship was very impressive. And I think again, it's the spread of scores that they had. I think again they had 8 or 9 different scores. That seems to be the story of their campaign so far. Like they can get scores from anywhere. At this stage, now you'd never know. Like this, a county final, anything can happen. And a local derby with Moyle Rovers in the semi-final, again, anything can happen. But at this stage, you'd have to say it does look like everybody's playing for second place.
Would you agree with that? Anthony, are they doing something different this year? Because like they definitely seem to be scoring. They're scoring way more heavily this year. They're scoring goals. They're definitely, like from the people I was talking to, definitely defensively they seem to be as maybe they're tighter, but still on the other hand they're still able to get forward and score as well. So look, we saw how good they were against Nemo last year in the Munster quarter final, and I'm just wondering, is there a sort of sense of unfinished business and how losing to Newcastle West and what do they feel like this is, even though Jason Lonergan is gone and stuff, that do they feel like this is they're on sort of a crusade this year, that it's not, they're not looking past the next game, but they're going out to be as good as they can every day to go out.
Yeah, it's good players coming totally focused every time, and taking everything serious. Like, I mean, they have I suppose how should we put it, on a consultancy basis, they have Oisin McConville in helping them out as well. Like, so they went to Guidor during the summer to play Guidor and just have a bit of a bonding session. But on the way up, they stopped in Armagh overnight to do their video analysis and whatever. They got Oisin in to give them a talk, and probably as a result, on that night, they asked him to come down and take a few sessions. Now, I think he's only been down once, which was last Wednesday night in Dr. Morris Park. But I think you may or may not see him again. I think you probably will see him again before the end of the championship. So, they're really going about their business in a professional way. Like, but as I say, good players playing well, it's very hard to stop.
Yeah. Then the drama, I suppose, between Upperchurch, Drumban and Kilsheal and Kilcash. Upperchurch were 9-6, I think, behind late on. They managed to bring it all the way to penalties, and Jamie Griffin was the hero there. 7-6 on penalties for a finish. Do you like? First off, Shane, how do you feel about penalties? And like, we have a very condensed championship, so many games, you nearly have to go with penalties.
I'm not a fan of them, but I kind of am for football. I'm one of those in hurling that I'm sort of a fan of the next score wins. But I was watching the last few minutes of Upperchurch and Kilsheal, and I was thinking, there's no point in having a next score win here because both teams are really struggling. They're out on their feet, I suppose penalties was probably the only way to decide it. Look, if you're Kilshealan, you'd feel really frustrated, to be leading and have the wind at your backs and not be able to see it out in normal time. They've been very, very frustrated with that. But then in extra time, they were hanging on a bit. They were losing bodies. I don't think they had any subs left to bring in. I think that their complement used. And I suppose Upperchurch really looked like Upperchurch probably, they had a lot of chances in the second period of extra time to win the game. They just took bad shots and things like that. I think that somebody missed an open goal or a ball, and I think somebody all they had to do was fist the ball over the bar to win it in normal time, and he ended up scuffing his shot wide. It was a real frantic finish, and then you go to the lottery penalties, and I think it got to the third round of kickers. I think 7-6, but there was a few misses and a few saves. It got to the third round of kickers. So some quality penalties taken, and I suppose that typical upper church, the last few years hurling and football, sometimes they just find a way to do it, and they're through, and they're into another semi-final.
That more or less sums it up. I thought, because Shane will probably be disappointed not to win it, have won it in full time. But in extra time, Upper Church were in total control. Even though I think the score for extra time actually ended up at 1 point each. Upper Church had 6 or 7 wides, and particularly that one at the end from Luke Shanahan. It's one he won to be watching back. Like, I mean, there was any number of things he could have done, but he was just so tired, probably just threw a leg at it. But he was only 6 or 7 yards out and should have won the game. But James Griffin, like, they weren't just saves; they were super saves that he made. Three outstanding saves in the penalty shootout, and Pat Ryan came on during the game and took two of the best penalties you'll ever see. I learned something on Sunday that I didn't know. I knew that the same 5 lads had to take the penalties, but I didn't realise you could change the order.
Yeah, that happened in Monaghan Armagh in the championship this year.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I just didn't know that. No, I didn't realise, because when I seen Pat Ryan coming up to take the 6th penalty, the first one of the second round, I thought, geez, there'd be controversy here. But yeah, that was every day is a school day, as they say.
Yeah, for sure. And then the final quarter final, J.K. Bracken's 2-10, Kiladangan 3-3. So on the scoreline, it was relatively tight, Anthony. But in terms of the report in the Nina Guardian, it seems that J.K. Brackens were never in massive bother in this game.
It felt like that through the game, right? I never felt that we were going to lose it. But on the way home in the car, I was thinking, you'd be taken back, and I said, "Jeez, Kuba Baben made 2 outstanding saves, and Kiladangan missed 4 or 5 scoreable frees, whereas we missed nothing." And by the time I got back to Tipperary, I was kind of saying, we were lucky to get out of the game, because you see 3-3, and you say that's a very juvenile score, but Kiladangan probably could easily have 4-8. I mean, the frees, Jack Kennedy was nailing frees for us, and Michael Doyle missing, I think, probably would have tapped over 2 or 3 of the frees that they missed. They were very scoreable frees. That it was horrendous conditions, so it's hard to blame anybody. Sunday afternoon was absolutely horrendous. But during the game, Shane, definitely, I felt we were comfortable enough during the game. But looking back on it, Kiladangan might feel that they left a good few scores behind them.
What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I know. I thought there were more complete team Brackens, like the way they used the ball. You could see that their angles are running, like balls into the corner and lads coming off the shoulder. And as Anthony said, they were clinical in front of goal. They didn't make the easy chances that Conor Cadell kicked a couple of classy scores, like Paddy Cadell to the 4 as well. I suppose just from their point of view, I think was it Dean McEnroe, Jordan Maloney got injured towards the end of the shoulder.
Dean McEnroe got injured.
Yeah, it's whether he'd be back for the semi-final. Like, he'd be a big loss if he doesn't make it.
Go for the semi-final of the football, but he definitely missed the hurling this week.
Yeah.
And like, of the teams, and obviously you've made the point that Clonmel are number 1 and everyone else is potentially playing for 2nd place. Of the challengers, Anthony, who has impressed you the most this year?
Well, at times I would say J.K. Brackens, but they haven't put it in for the hour. When they've been good, they've been really, really good. And they got to go. Carl Scully got a goal there on Sunday, but the movement and the passing on the way up, it came all the way out of the fence, was absolutely brilliant. So you'd be thinking that if we could put in that performance for the hour, we may just put it up to Clonmel. But I suppose the worry of that is, like, when we've been bad, we've been very bad. And maybe that's the performance that we put in for the hour as well. Like, we just need to get a bit more consistency. Of the 3 teams left, you know what? There's the shag-all between any of them. Upper Church ourselves will be very tight. And if we played Moyle Rovers earlier on in the year, and that was very tight. Of the 3 in Semple Stadium against Clonmel Commercials, if they're there, I would say probably J.K. Brackens might be the best, because of the pace that they have on their side in that big open field. Might be best place to give Clonmel a game. But you know what, you're saying that, and it's a real 50-50 game that we have against Upperchurch coming up. So, let's not jump too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, it was when it came to the draw, like, I suppose Brackens could have got Commercials or Upperchurch, so I suppose they got the draw they wanted. Plus, it's a chance to maybe to make up for the quarter-final loss last year. It's a mid-derby, so there'll be a bit of spice to that one. But, so, like, it's... Yeah, I suppose you're probably looking at Commercials winning their semi-final, and then or maybe a repeat of last year's final, or I suppose then you have maybe a repeat of the 19 final when Brackens probably didn't get a chance to put their best foot forward. They had only won the Seamus Arena the weekend before. I don't think they're best to fettle, like, so you'd love to see them if they did get to a final against Commercials, get a decent look at how they would go.
Yeah, I think that was 19 or 20 points in the ourselves justice in that day. But we were very young that time, and we're a few years older now, obviously. So you'd like to think we'd have learned from it if we got there. Upperchurch last year, apart from maybe 20 minutes in the first half, where Clonmel completely dominated. They put up a decent enough performance last year as well, particularly in the second half. So either Brackens or Upperchurch would fancy a go with Commercials, but you know what, I think myself that I've said this a few times. Jack Butler was missing for Upperchurch. I think that might just give J.K. Brackens a slight edge. He's a very, very important player for Upperchurch.
And Anthony, just a word on Ballina. Obviously, it was a fairly comprehensive victory for Clonmel in that game, 4-17-17. But they were without David Kelly, who was away. Paddy O'Donovan and Michael Grace went off injured inside the first half, and I think Stephen O'Brien came off in the second half. Is it a fair reflection of where Ballina are at, or is the scoreline a little harsh considering what they've done in the last year or so?
Yeah, the scoreline is a little harsh, and I know Stephen came off, but I think while he was on the field, he was only operating at around 20%. I'd say if it wasn't a county quarter final, he probably wouldn't have started. So, it's a harsh lesson for Ballina, but you know what? If they had got any of the other teams in the semi or in the quarter final, they would have fancied themselves to maybe win or get to a semi final. But that I wouldn't be downbeat if I was them about that scoreline, because when a game gets away from you, it can either go one way, it'll stay at maybe 9 or 10 points, or the other team just kick on, and Clonmel just kicked on. So they can be very proud of what they achieved this year, and they're certainly in the top 8 in senior football now. I don't think it was a fluke. I think they'll be back again next year, and with a kinder draw in the quarter final, they could even go a bit further. Yeah, and a word then on Loughmore. Do you think, in a way, Clonmel are happy enough to see Loughmore out of the equation? Yeah, absolutely. They're the one team that bothered Clonmel, and you kind of say they shouldn't, but Loughmore do bother them, and they'll be delighted to see them gone anyway.
Yeah. Just in terms of the intermediate, would you make Sarsfields the favourites now?
God, you know what? I still even despite a lucky result or last Sunday, I still fancy Grange Mopler, but Sarsfields, there's not much between them, and on the day, that was a really impressive result for them, wasn't it? I love annoying the Sarsfields lads when we have a few points in us that they were originally formed as a football club. And so they're only going back to their roots, but they have 7 or 8 lads playing on the senior B team, and plus Paddy James Armstrong playing well. So, it is a really impressive result against Fethard, who I thought would have been on the crest of a wave after winning the under-19 South semi-final against Commercials the weekend or midweek last week. So really impressive result, and they have to be amongst the favourites to win it now. And we have a question in here from River Power. It's probably jumping a couple of games ahead, but in terms of Munster, are Clonmel actually improved this year, or are they going in undercooked, Anthony? I'd say they've definitely improved. But I mean, there has to be a hell warning with that. Like, apart from Ballina, which the size of the scoreline probably was surprised everyone. You know, you would have expected them to win the games that they won against Éire Óg and Drum fairly comprehensively, which they did. Maybe Kilsheelan, that was a wake-up call for them as well. Like, they were lucky to get out with a win in that on that occasion. But if they go to Munster, I don't know what the draw is for Munster this year, but I'd imagine that in the back of their heads, that's where they're looking as for.
Yeah, just pull up the draw. If they played the Limerick champions in the quarter final at home, so you would. I know they had the loss to Newcastle West, but you'd like to think they'd be fair motivated for that if they got that far, and then they have a home semi-final against the Kerry champions. So like they mightn't have to leave the county to get to a Munster final.
No. And the Kerry champions could be the Kerry club champions, depending on who wins down there. Like
that was Dingle or Dingle.
Dingle, yeah. Could possibly be them. Like so, yeah. Look, there's a chance there for any of the teams to get out of Tip this year, because if you beat Commercials, you're obviously going quite well. So you know, I suppose Commercials, they won't want any talk about Munster or anything like that at this stage. They'll just be concentrating, and it seems to be the way they've approached it this year, is just concentrating each game at a time and out and be ruthless.
Anthony, just before we let you go, can I just ask you, what's the mood in Templemore at the moment in terms of JK Brackens against Clonody this weekend? Are people confident of a result there, or what are they thinking?
You know, we picked up a few injuries at the weekend, so Tom Murphy hurt a finger, but he'd probably be okay. Like probably he fractured a finger from the warm up last week, and as I said, Dee McEnroe is out, but yeah, we'd be no more than hopeful. But you know, I think we're far better off than we were at the start of the year. That had, you know, when we were missing the likes of Conor Cadell, Paddy Cadell especially, and Éanna McBride, and I think missing the three of them early on in the year is the reason that we are in the position that we are. But Shane touched on it earlier. We're getting a bounce now from the football results have kept us going, so week on week. So obviously, winning the football last week puts us, because we need to be doing the two, puts us fairly confident, not confident, but you know, fairly hopeful that we'll get out of relegation next Sunday. But
you just hope nothing happens on Saturday, but that you play again in the junior hurling semi on Sunday, that you don't want any carryover. Maybe we'll see if something happens. We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you couldn't really have made it a double header, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, look, Anthony, brilliant to have you on the show, and we'll chat again soon.
Yeah, no problem, lads. Thanks, Will.
Okay, and then I don't think we've had an opportunity yet to talk about the intermediate hurling club semi-finals this weekend, and they're fairly good ones. Borlahan Duala against Moneygall, and Golden Kilfeacle will meet Kilsheelan and Kilcash, who seem to be playing a match every 5 minutes. But we'll start off with Borlahan Duala and Moneygall, and I think the talk all year has been about the attack that Moneygall have, just the fact that they've Joe Fogarty and Sean Kennedy up there, that sort of inter-county type level, albeit Sean is underage rather than senior, which maybe he will graduate to. Do you think that that's going to be defining in this game?
Quite possibly. Like, it's probably the two best teams in it, Clyden in the semi-final. Like they were in the same group. They're both our divisional champions. They drew the match between each other in Templederry. Game, I suppose Borlahan led well at half time, but Moneygall came back. Look, it's two very, very good teams with loads of good ball players, and you probably think I'm leaning towards Moneygall just because they've been at the business end of this championship the last couple of years. With got to a semi-final 2 years ago, got to a final last year. You think that they've got to get back there again at least. Like, and you'd say that Sean Fogarty is a huge add-on to that team this year. Like I say, they have loads of scoring power, and then on the other side, I believe Brian O'Dwyer is struggling to be fit for Borlahan, and he's been a huge player for them this year. But then I just thought that maybe the manner they struggled to get over Kickham's in the quarter final, it didn't look as as fluent as I thought Moneygall were against Kilsheelan and then against Borrisokane. So on that score, and if O'Dwyer is missing, maybe edging towards Moneygall, but I think it should be a really, really good game in Temple Tuohy on Saturday.
And what sort of game are you expecting? Like, are we expecting a bit of a bruiser here? By the way, it'd been on at 12:30 on a Saturday as well. You know, like, you want to make sure you're good and awake as a player.
Yeah, I know it's a strange time. I don't know whether maybe one club maybe asked for an earlier throw-in or something, or maybe it's just there's so many games on. I suppose maybe they got to get referees and linesmen from one venue to another, like to get all the games through this weekend, because there's county minor finals on. It's just so many games on this weekend. But I know I expect, I suppose, weather permitting, Saturday, whether this match will avoid it. I think it'll be very open. I think it'll be high scoring, because I think both teams like to use the ball. They don't get too much. They don't want to get bogged down too much in physicality. Or I'd be expecting a high scoring game with, I think, both sets of forwards on top, but maybe just Moneygall might have maybe a greater spread of scores. That could be the difference.
And then the other side, you couldn't help but favour Kilsheelan and Kilcash in this game. You know, they were in the same group as also Moneygall and Borlaug and Duala, which was, you know, very much stacked with strong teams there. Could you make a case for Golden and Kilfeacle?
I can. I can, because they're like, Kilsheelan have had a busy run of it. Extra time last weekend in football, and you have a 6-day turnaround. I'm surprised that they weren't actually granted an extra day with a fixture maybe been pushed to Sunday. Just it's unless they're happy to play it on Saturday, and I'm not sure what level of injuries or fatigue they would have got out of that. I'm sure they would have got something. Then you have Golden, nicely refreshed. Probably 4 weeks ago, maybe were puck of a ball away from getting into relegation. They've ended up beating Ballingarry. They benefited from the new scoring rule to scrape into a quarter final. There, they easily beat Drummond, who won their group. So you'd think maybe the penny has dropped at Golden over the last few weeks, and they could be just coming in under the radar here. And if Kilsheelan are not at it, like, Golden have enough talent there, like Ben Curran, you have Jack Leamy, you have Shawnee O'Halloran. Like, they have some really, really good forwards. Like, and just, it's one Kilsheelan cannot take for granted here. But you would think, on the quality of their hurling so far this year, you'd have to think Kilsheelan getting to a county final where they were 2 years ago, they'd be favourites for that.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, of the quarter or the semi-finalists they could have played, Kilsheelan would probably feel that this is the more winnable. So after the run they've had,
but they wouldn't want to. That softness could be a problem too if it creeps into it's a game we should win. Like, and we've always seen that's the rock you could perish on.
Yeah, and finding someone or some people to try and tie down Mark Keogh would be a big thing here.
Barry Keogh, he's playing really, really well.
Yeah, and then the relegation final. So Kiladangan and Upperchurch, both of their second teams. A couple of years ago, Kiladangan weren't too far away in the Premier Intermediate, and now they're down. You know, they're after getting back-to-back relegations. So, I mean, like, is this any sort of a concern for Kiladangan that their second team is dropping down a little bit? Is that a suggestion that the depth isn't as good as it was?
It's hard. You can't say it's not. It's probably an indication of maybe their peak as in terms of strength with all their adult players is probably waning a small bit. Like the 2 years ago, they were in a Premier Intermediate quarter final against Killanall and hurled quite well. Got relegated last year.
I'll give you a perfect example. Like, so, you know, obviously you remember Kula, you know, winning stuff a few years ago, and the second team was in the Senior B county final, and now you know the second team is in the third tier, albeit they've changed around the tiers.
Yeah,
and the third team is down a little bit further as well. So I mean, sometimes it can be reflective.
It can be, and like I suppose that second team has an awful lot of ex-senior players: Rory Gleeson, Martin Minahan, like guys that are Darry Egan, like guys that have been there a while and know what it's about. And I think that could be key in maybe getting them through this game at the weekend. They might just have too much experience. Upperchurch only came up from Junior A last year, so like they'll be hoping not to make it a short stint. But I think they definitely Kiladangan will be keen to not to go back-to-back relegations. It's like you're going back to Junior A, and like while in some ways, maybe junior A in terms of handiness sake, in terms of you're playing junior A is divisional, like you're only playing clubs in your own division for like it saves on travel and stuff like that. But then the competition element at intermediate is very, very good. So but then Upper Church produced their best performance of the season in the semi-final, lost to Arravale, only lost by a point. So maybe they're pulling things together. So yeah, it is maybe Kiladangan just because they're coming from a higher ceiling.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we finish up?
No, just best of luck to everyone out there this weekend. Like, you have to have Junior A semi-finals, you have Junior B quarter-finals, you have Minor A and Minor B hurling finals. There'll be a cracking Minor A final between Holy Cross and Mullinahone. They played a league final during the year, and it was a super game. Mullinahone won. So it's great to see. I would say there was a worry there for a while the way Thurles were going so well. It's great to see two rural clubs in a Minor A final. Like, just shows you the likes of Holy Cross and Mullinahone, when they get a good group of young lads together, they can compete with the very, very best.
And you could see the two of those continuing to push on at senior level. Like, based on what you've seen underage the last few years, if you were to sort of look at your crystal ball, is there any teams that you think, right, these are a common club at the top level?
It has to be. You'd have to think it's Holy Cross, like just they won the minor last year. They potentially could go back to back. You have Mike Harkey Burris won the mid-minor A last year, beating that Holy Cross team. So you're looking at those two. You think Mullinahone, if they keep this group of young lads together, they should stiffen up their senior team. Again, Toome Vara, a very, very good under-19 team this year. We already seen Darren McCarthy. And look, I think I said it last week. I think it actually, speaking to Ken Dunn this week, Ken originally was due to take on the 19s, but when there was a change coming in at senior, he was sort of asked to take on the senior job, and it's actually worked out. I think if more clubs went down the route of maybe had joint managing teams for under 19 and senior, or maybe their first adult team, it would be best. You're keeping that core group of players together, maybe the seniors, and then maybe the best of the under 19s coming, and even you're bringing on the weaker of the under 19s as well. Your good numbers in training, like, so. Be interesting to see if more clubs go down there. I've actually been really, really surprised at how the under 19 grade has ran off. Like, I thought a couple of years ago, I remember when they were minor was going back to under 17, and there was this big debate over, do we just go with under 20? But the clubs really wanted to bring in an under 19 grade and still keep under 21. And I thought, God, there's going to be chaos, because you'll have clubs left, right, and centre saying we're not playing Wednesday because we need a couple of the good lads fresh to play at the weekend. But no, it's actually worked surprisingly smoothly, like, and like a fair play for all involved, and like as it should do, because I go think the under 19 players' priority, even just say Darren McCarthy, for example, his priority should be his own age grade. But while he's good enough for the senior team, like the weaker lads, not under 19 team, look up to him to be the lead. And I'm sure that under 19 run has helped his hurling, well, it's helped Adam Hall's hurling, like, as well, because look at what he's been doing what he did for Toome in the last couple of weeks. Like,
look around the country where it just goes from minor to under 20 or under 21. And a lot of these lads who are at a crucial age group, and some lads have so many games with different age groups, seniors, both codes, whatever, that we're talking about, burnout. And then it's just complete drop-off for other lads, because they might come out of minor, they're not good enough just yet for the next team. Some of them maybe don't even go in with they have a drop-off, they don't even go in with the junior team or the second team or whatever. And then they have a quickly run off under 21 championship. Like, you'll see it in Dublin now. It'll be run off in the space of a month straight, knockout.
Well, I suppose it'll be the same here too. Like, so, but look, that can't be helped. Like, I suppose you have to get the adult championships run off, and I suppose they'll be all wrapped up within the next month in hurling and football. And I suppose the way the weather is at the moment, there's a fair chance we could actually have a good early winter, because if it stays raining like this, we'll be sinking after a while. Like, so. Yeah, it's been the never-ending winter, really. The Tipperary football manager, is there any movement at all? Not yet. I know there's a scheduled county board meeting tonight, well, assuming it still goes ahead, whether there'll be a name put forward. But as of last week, I believe they're getting close, but they're nothing firmed up yet. I suppose it'd be interesting tonight whether there is an update on the senior hurling management, I suppose rumours came around the last few weeks to whether maybe a couple of members of the management team will be stepping away. Like I've tried to put the feelers out to get it confirmed. I haven't got any response, which could be a confirmation of sorts, like that. Usually if there's a rumor goes around like that and it's not true, you shoot it down straight away. Like, so I suppose maybe they don't want to confirm anything with, I suppose, potentially Pádraig Maher and Declan Laffin involved in a big club semi-final at the weekend. Like, so I suppose we just don't want to say any more than that until we get confirmation of sorts whether it's true or not.
Yeah, and then I suppose one final thing, Austin Gleeson has stepped away from inter-county hurling. He's been on the road. I think he has 10 seasons under his belt. He started in 2014 and going up to last year, that would make it 10 seasons. Or this year, I should say, would make it 10 seasons. I wouldn't be surprised to see more players taking years out here and there because it is very all-consuming. And if your club is having a long run as well, just wonder when do you get a break? And people don't realise that, I suppose, that you do want to kind of now and again step off that roundabout and just get a bit of a break, have a bit of crack, be a young lad, whatever it might be. Same with the girls.
Yeah, I to be honest, I'm not surprised, and in some ways, I'm happy he's doing it because I don't think he's been enjoying his hurling the last 4 or 5 years. Okay, maybe Waterford haven't been going well, but like you go back to the guy that was there from 15, 16, 17, and the smile on his face and the things he was doing, like he's a gift. He's a gifted hurler. There's absolutely no doubt. And look, I suppose he nearly has the weight of the Waterford public on his shoulders, and I don't think it's comfortable on him. Like, and no disrespect to all that. I definitely, since Derek McGrath has moved on, I don't think he's the player he was. I think he felt, I don't know, there was a connection between those two, and I just think maybe since then he's been shoved around in different positions. Okay, 2020, the first year with Liam Cahill, I think he had a decent year, but since then I'm not sure we've seen the best of him. Like, he's had his injury problems as well, and look, maybe going away for, I'm not sure whether he's going abroad or whether he's just taking the year out. He'll either come back refreshed or he won't come back at all. Like, I suppose I think that's the way I would look at it. And I suppose maybe look, the Bennetts went away. Was it 2 of the Bennetts went away last year? Rumours maybe a couple more Waterford players might go the travel route, and like, look, a lot of those great Waterford young players came in nearly straight out of minor, like, and they have a lot of hurling done, like, and probably very little of their lives lived. So would you blame them for going? I don't think so.
And like, if you were to name 2 of the most talented sticksmen or wristy players in the last number of years, you'd say Austin Gleeson, who's stepping away now before time. Maybe he'll be back in 2025. And John Bubbles O'Dwyer, who was, when he did an interview not so long ago with BBC, he was talking about how the game at inter-county level isn't for him anymore, in the sense of just tracking up and down the field and all this kind of stuff, and maybe it just doesn't suit his game. But also, it also speaks to, we're talking about 2 of the most talented lads stepping away when, there's more in them, really. Does it say something about the game, the sport, what we're expecting people to do?
I have no doubt about it. I think we've got to be so careful in terms of, look, there's no doubt that the level of coaching and hurling at the moment is at the highest it's ever been. But I think we're nearly gone overcoached, if you know what I mean. I think we've got to be careful not to take the spontaneity. We've got to not, the likes of Austin Gleeson and the John O'Dwyers, we don't want those guys put in a straitjacket, if you know what I mean, that we can't see their full level of their skills, because that you can't take on that shot, because that's not part of what we do. And look, we know I'm not convinced there's a level of spontaneity. People say Cian Lynch is able to do what he does, but he does it within a system, if you know what I mean. Like, it's very system orientated, but the way they're so good at what they do, it doesn't feel like it. But you'd miss the day of the outstanding corner. Like, the day of the outstanding corner forward is gone. Like, who are a really top quality, like Aaron Gillan, but he's sort of a new type of, new type of inside forward. Like, Seamus Flanagan is more of a, I say, physical specimen, more of a robotic sort of a forward. Whereas I hate, like, what you look at, probably the next big talent coming is, what's the young lad in Galway? Aaron Island. Where's he going to fit? Like, you look at Evan Island. the game. He's an outstanding talent, but he's a fish out of water in the modern senior and county game, where he's really only scoring frees because he doesn't have the size or the physicality nearly to see the full nature of his talents.
Yeah, like to be fair, he did all right against Tip there in the yeah. I mean, like it is definitely a bit of a concern. I would have said that game plans, and this is how I look at it when I'm coaching, whatever, is like this is to we do a bit of a game plan. We work the ball around a bit to give you a platform to show off your class, and then the spontaneity comes in. And of course, if a lad's got, under pressure and he's got a brilliant sidestep, or he's just got great vision, feel free to go out and play it as you see it. Yeah. But like, I think game plans should just be there to give a player, whether it's male or female, the best opportunity to show off what they can do. Yeah, they're like, you have parameters, and after that, it's go out and hurt. So,
unless you have an individual or a group of players that you're lucky enough that their heads are like sponges and can take information. Like that's probably what's good about this Limerick team. They've probably just got a group of players as talented as they are that they've got the right guys with the right mentality who can take so much information on board.
And the right lads giving the information the right way.
And then you have other guys, if you give them too much information, you'll just confuse them, and they'll just won't be able to go out and do what they have to do, because instead of going to the ball, they're thinking as they're going to the ball, and that's the last thing you want a lad to do.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for the show this week. We'll be back again next week. Enjoy the hurling this coming weekend and the football that will be coming thereafter. Chat to you soon, Shane.
Cheers.